This isn't just a loyalty story. This is a warning. When rap loyalty spills out of the booth and into the streets, the outcome isn't just viral clips, power shifts happen. CG Lil Hank didn't just pick a side, he crossed a line. The move made in Pooh Shiesty's name wasn't a sign of respect, it was a challenge. In the streets, loyalty isn't talked about, it's proven. What started as something small reportedly turned explosive once ego, reputation, and street codes got involved. A minor issue can turn into a full-blown war overnight. Every handshake can be fake. Every smile can hide intentions. People saying it's just rap are missing the point. In Memphis, rap isn't just music, it's survival. And when someone uses a name with weight to make street moves, the response isn't lyrical, it's real-life consequences. CG Lil Hank's loyalty raised a serious question. Was this brotherhood or a power play? Support or a setup? Sources say this beef no longer whispers behind closed doors. Phones are ringing. Lines are being drawn. And anyone caught in the middle? They're not safe. This story isn't only about Pooh Shiesty. It's about what happens when loyalty goes too far, when pride meets pressure, and when the streets remind everyone why they get real fast. The streets don't usually give second warnings. They don't send press releases. They don't explain themselves. Once loyalty goes too far, the streets get real fast. That's the moment the story truly begins. Because what followed wasn't loud at first. There were no immediate headlines, no flashing cameras, no trending hashtags. Just quiet tension. Side eyes. Phones buzzing a little more than usual. The kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. CG Lil Hank had already made his stance clear. Not with a tweet. Not with a song. But with movement. And in street culture, movement speaks louder than any bar ever could. People close to the situation say it wasn't about clout. If anything, clout was the last thing anyone involved wanted. This was about positioning. About respect. About making sure a name, Pooh Shiesty's name, still carried weight even when the man himself wasn't physically present to back it up. That's where things started getting complicated. Because carrying someone's name in the streets is a dangerous responsibility. When you invoke a name with history, you inherit everything that comes with it. The respect, the enemies, the unfinished business. And once that name is spoken in the wrong context, it stops being symbolic and starts becoming operational. Words spread fast, the way it always does. Quiet conversations turned into warnings. Warnings turned into questions. Questions turned into decisions. Is CG Lil Hank acting on loyalty? Or is he testing how far the name still reaches? In Memphis, those two things can look identical until they're not. The streets began dividing the situation into two versions of the same story. One side saw a soldier standing 10 toes down for someone he considers family. The other side saw a risky power move, a younger player stepping into territory that wasn't fully cleared. And the streets never forgive hesitation. What made it more volatile was the timing. Tension was already high. Old grudges hadn't cooled off. New faces were trying to prove themselves. In moments like that, one bold move can flip an entire chessboard. People forget that street loyalty isn't about emotions, it's about consequences. Every action creates a ripple. Every ripple reaches someone who didn't ask to be involved. Sources say after CG Lil Hank's move, conversations shifted tone. Less joking. More code words. Less what if, more when. And when the language changes, the energy follows. There's a myth that rap beef starts in music. In reality, music usually comes last. Songs are receipts, not causes. By the time the beat drops, the tension has already been living and breathing for weeks, sometimes months. That's why this situation never needed a diss track to feel serious. The loyalty itself was the message. And not everyone received it the same way. Some felt challenged. Others felt disrespected. A few felt cornered. And when people feel cornered, they don't look for compromise, they look for leverage. This is where the story stops being about two names and starts being about a system. A system where reputation is currency. Where silence can be louder than threats. Where the wrong move doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone connected to you. CG Lil Hank reportedly knew that. People close to him say he wasn't reckless, he was calculated. He understood the risk. He accepted it. Because in his mind, loyalty isn't loyalty unless it costs you something. But the streets don't grade intentions. They only judge outcomes. As word continued to spread, neutral parties started choosing sides without officially choosing sides. Invitations changed. Routes changed. Schedules shifted. Small adjustments that only make sense when something bigger is coming. And that's when the whispers started getting specific. Not about music. Not about social media. About presence. Who's been seen where? Who hasn't? Who suddenly stopped moving the way they used to? That's when people realized this wasn't cooling down. It was heating up quietly. The scary part about quiet beef is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no warning shot. No countdown. Just a sudden moment where everyone realizes the line has already been crossed. And according to insiders, that line was crossed the moment Pooh Shiesty's name stopped being symbolic and started being strategic. Because once a name becomes a strategy, someone somewhere feels forced to respond. And in the streets, response isn't optional. By the end of that week, the energy had fully shifted. What was once speculation became expectation. People weren't asking if something would happen, they were asking how soon. And the most dangerous part? Nobody knew who would be caught in the middle. This wasn't just CG Lil Hank's story anymore. This was bigger than loyalty. Bigger than reputation. It was the beginning of a chain reaction. The chain reaction didn't explode all at once. It crept. Right after that week ended, the streets slipped into a different rhythm. Not slower, sharper. Movements became intentional. Nobody lingered where they didn't have to. The casual energy disappeared, replaced by purpose. Because once people expect something to happen, they start preparing for it. Those close to CG Lil Hank noticed the shift immediately. Calls came in at odd hours. Short conversations. No name said. No details shared. Just confirmations. Check-ins. The kind that don't ask questions because everyone already knows the answers. Across the city, the same thing was happening on the other side. That's the part outsiders never see, how beef doesn't travel in straight lines. It spreads in circles. One person hears something, tells two people, who each tell two more. By the time the message comes back around, it's heavier, sharper, and missing context. And context is dangerous when it's gone. What had started as loyalty now carried an edge. Not because CG Lil Hank changed his stance, but because everyone else started interpreting it differently. Loyalty in the streets isn't judged by intention, it's judged by impact. Some saw the move as a reminder. Pooh Shiesty's presence didn't disappear just because he wasn't physically around. Others saw it as provocation. A statement that said, "We're still here, whether you like it or not." And statements demand replies. The first response wasn't public. It never is. It showed up in subtle ways. A link that went unanswered. A meeting that didn't happen. Familiar faces are suddenly hard to reach. These aren't coincidences, they're signals. Signals that the temperature is rising. People began paying attention to patterns. Who was moving together? Who stopped crossing paths? Who switched routes without explanation? In the streets, patterns are everything. Then came the rumors. Not the loud kind. The quiet ones. The ones whispered just loud enough to travel. About who felt disrespected. About who felt tested. About who felt like the name was being used without permission. Because there's an unspoken rule. Carrying someone's name is one thing, carrying it into pressure is another. And pressure was building. Sources say there was a moment, a brief window, where this could have cooled off. Where intermediaries tried to soften edges. Where messages were sent with neutral language, testing whether peace was still an option. But neutrality is fragile. All it takes is one misinterpreted move to break it. According to insiders, that break came when a routine appearance turned into a message without words. Presence was felt. Eyes noticed. The kind of moment that doesn't look dramatic on camera but changes everything in real time. From that point on, the situation stopped being theoretical. People stopped asking, "What does this mean?" They started asking what the response was. And responses in the streets aren't drafted, they're decided. CG Lil Hank stayed quiet publicly. No captions. No subliminals. That silence spoke volumes. To some, it read as confidence. To others, defiance. Silence is dangerous because it lets everyone project their own fear into it. Meanwhile, the city did what it always does when tension rises. It chose sides without saying it out loud. Invitations became selective. Circles tightened. Trust narrowed. The scariest part wasn't aggression. It was a certainty. Once people believe something is inevitable, they start acting like it already happened. And inevitability was in the air. Those closest to the situation say CG Lil Hank understood exactly what he was standing on. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't emotional. He believed loyalty loses meaning the moment it's conditional. But belief doesn't stop consequences. Because while one side viewed the move as standing tall, the other saw it as stepping forward. And stepping forward invites collision. As days passed, the pressure reached people who never asked to be involved. Friends felt forced to clarify where they stood. Associates felt watched. Every interaction carried weight. This is how street tension grows, not in explosions, but in compression. Everything is tighter. Everything is closer. Then came the moment everyone remembers differently. Some say it was accidental. Others say it was intentional. What's certain is that it removed all doubt. After that, there was no misunderstanding left to hide behind. From that moment, the narrative locked in. This wasn't about disrespect anymore. It was about control. Who gets to move freely? Who gets to speak through names? Who gets to set the tone? And once control enters the conversation, ego follows. People started preparing for outcomes instead of avoiding them. Not because they wanted chaos, but because unpreparedness is the real danger. Behind closed doors, conversations turned serious. Not emotional. Strategic. The kind that weighs risk instead of pride. But pride has a way of leaking into strategy. Especially when reputations are on the line. CG Lil Hank's name now traveled with context attached. Every mention came with assumptions. Every sighting came with speculation. That's the cost of standing on loyalty in public. You don't just carry your own decisions, you carry everyone else's reaction to them. By the end of the next stretch, one thing was clear. This situation wasn't dissolving. It was crystallizing. Lines weren't just drawn. They were reinforced. And once lines are reinforced, crossing them becomes deliberate. No one knew exactly how it would unfold. But everyone knew it would. Because the streets don't forget challenges. They don't ignore pressure. They answer it. And as the tension settled into something heavier, one truth stood above everything else. Whatever came next wouldn't be accidental. It would be intentional. And it would change the direction of everyone involved. This wasn't the climax. This was the setup. The setup had done its job. By the time the city realized what was happening, the outcome was already shaping itself. Not as a single moment, but as a sequence, a tightening spiral where every choice limited the next one. Because once tension becomes intentional, it stops asking for permission. The first thing to change was visibility. People who were everywhere suddenly weren't. Others, usually low-key, became impossible to miss. That wasn't a coincidence. It was calibration. Presence used as pressure. Absence used as leverage. In the streets, being seen is a message. So it is not being seen. CG Lil Hank didn't adjust his posture. That was the part that unsettled people the most. No scrambling. No backtracking. No public reassurance. He moved the same way, which told everyone watching that the decision had already been made. And decisions, once made, don't negotiate. The whispers had hardened into assumptions. Assumptions turned into expectations. Expectations turned into preparations. People stopped debating motives and started counting outcomes. That's when the atmosphere shifted from pressure to inevitability. Neutral ground disappeared. Every space carried an opinion. Every interaction felt weighed. People who tried to stay out of it found themselves pulled in anyway, forced to clarify silence they never meant as a statement. This is how final chapters begin, not with chaos, but with clarity. According to insiders, there was a final attempt at stabilization. Not peace, stability. A recognition that once lines are drawn, erasing them isn't realistic, but managing them might be. Those conversations didn't fail because of disrespect. They failed because of timing. Too much had already been interpreted. Too many signals had already been read. In the streets, you don't just undo momentum. The turning point didn't come with sirens or headlines. It came with confirmation. A moment where multiple parties realized they were no longer guessing. The situation had revealed its shape. From there, everything moved faster. Moves became visible. Routes overlapped. Eyes locked longer than usual. Not aggressive, assessing. Measuring distance. Measuring reaction. C.G. Lil Hank's name was no longer just mentioned. It was calculated. Every association attached itself like an annotation. Every connection added context. The story around him grew heavier than the actions themselves. That's when people understood the cost of standing publicly on loyalty. Because loyalty, once declared, attracts consequence. The response that followed wasn't dramatic. That's the part outsiders misunderstand. Real outcomes don't look cinematic. They look deliberate. They look like boundaries are enforced. Like access restricted. Like influence redistributed. Some relationships cooled overnight. Others hardened. Doors didn't slam. They closed quietly and didn't reopen. That's how power shifts. No announcement. No applause. Just new rules. C.G. Lil Hank absorbed it without commentary. No victory lap. No complaints. Which told those paying attention that the point was never attention. It was positioning. And positioning doesn't celebrate. It holds. Meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty's name, the center of the original gravity, emerged unchanged but redefined. Not louder. Not weaker. More precise. The streets recalibrated how they interpreted that name in motion. What once felt symbolic now felt conditional. Not less powerful, just more carefully handled. That recalibration mattered. Because it showed everyone watching that names alone don't move the streets. Actions do. And actions echo. By the time the dust settled, there was no clear winner to point at. That's another myth. Final chapters don't crown champions. They establish order. The order that followed wasn't peaceful, but it was stable. Lines existed. They were understood. People moved accordingly. C.G. Lil Hank emerged with a different kind of reputation, not louder, not flashier, heavier. The kind that doesn't trend but travels. The kind that makes rooms quiet when mentioned. That's the price of seeing something through. Not everyone approved. Not everyone agreed. But no one misunderstood. And in the streets, being understood matters more than being liked. Looking back, insiders say this situation will be remembered less for what happened and more for what didn't. The escalation that never needed to explode. The pressure that resolved through alignment instead of chaos. That doesn't make it soft. It makes it real. Because real power doesn't rush. It settles. This final chapter isn't about revenge. It's about consequences. About how loyalty, when pushed past its limit, stops being emotional and becomes structural. It changes who moves where, who speaks for whom, who carries weight and who doesn't. C.G. Lil Hank didn't just stand on loyalty. He tested its boundaries. And the streets responded the only way they know how, by adjusting. No credits rolled. No lessons announced. Just a new normal. One where everyone involved learned the same truth. Loyalty is powerful. But once it goes public, once it goes strategic, once it moves the streets instead of the music, it stops being a statement. It becomes a force. And forces don't ask. They act. That's how this story ends. Not with noise, but with balance restored, and everyone is aware of what it costs to get there. If you've made it this far, understand this. You didn't just hear a story. You witnessed how the streets really move. This wasn't about gossip. This wasn't about clout. This was about loyalty tested under pressure and what happens when names carry weight beyond music. Now here's the question, how many of these stories do you think never get told? If you want real street narratives, not watered-down headlines. If you want rap beef broken down without industry filters. If you want to understand why some moves change entire cities, then you already know what to do. Like this if you felt the tension. Subscribe if you want more raw, uncut hip-hop stories told the right way. Comment below, was this loyalty or was it a power move? No fence sitting. Because the streets always choose sides, and so does the audience. New stories are already forming. New tensions are already building. And the next situation might be even heavier than this one. This channel doesn't chase trends, it documents consequences. So stay locked in. Turn notifications on. And don't just watch from the outside. Be early. Be informed. Be part of the conversation before it goes public. Because in hip-hop, the real stories don't start on social media. They start in silence. And when they finally surface, you'll hear them here first.